Last time we talked about the race for the Champions League in the Premier League, it was a tense battle between 4th place Newcastle, 5th place Chelsea, and 6th place Man City, who all, over the recent weeks, had been taking turns fumbling the last Champions League qualification spot. 2 points separated the three, but you couldn't count out the guys from 7th all the way down to 10th. Yep, that's right, this deep into the season, you still had clubs like 10th place Bournemouth with a chance to qualify as they were just 6 points from 4th. That said, the Cherries are currently running out of energy, and you can see that with how they are now on a 4-game winless run. Also, while 3rd place Forest came up clutch to create a cushion with 2 wins, including their triumph versus City at home, their dreams of a long-awaited return to Europe was nowhere near secure yet. Right off the bat, before we go into any of the results, something has changed. The number of teams qualifying for the Champions League next season. I mentioned this briefly at the beginning of the last video, but didn't really take it into consideration because nothing was confirmed yet. However, about a week ago, UEFA made it official that 5 Premier League teams will feature in the Champions League next season. Once more, another step towards the growing disparity, as this spot and La Liga's extra spot could have been used for, the champions of other countries. This extra spot also means there could be more than 9 teams in Europe next year depending on results in the league and the domestic cups. However, for this video, we're going to solely focus on the Champions League race. And we continue on with match day 30, where in a rare sequence of events, 4th place did not immediately collapse under pressure like the average argument in favor of mid-filet when Shake Shack is mentioned. But that didn't mean Newcastle still nearly kept the tradition going. After going 1-0 up, the Saudi PIF gave away a penalty at the hour mark. But fortunately, a strike from Sandro Tonali in the 74th minute maintained that the Magpies stay in 4th. 5th place Chelsea, now in the new last Champions League spot, had Spurs at Stamford Bridge, where they've only ever been better in the league by the North London club once in 30 games since 1992. So yeah, there wasn't any doubt here. 6th place Man City had an even freer freebie as they were playing Leicester. And if you want to know how ass this team has been, click this video. This weekend also witnessed a very important matchup between 7th place Brighton and 9th place Aston Villa. And in the end, it would be Villa's loans Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio starring in a much-needed 3-0 victory for the club. They collect their 2nd consecutive league win for the first time since mid-January, and with Fulham losing to Arsenal, Villa moves up to 7th, 4 points from the Champions League. 10th place Bournemouth lost to 18th place Ipswich, which means they've now lost 4 of their last 5 games. I'm sorry guys, I don't want to do this, but you leave me no choice anymore. Match day 31, Newcastle barely get out of 2nd gear and humiliate Leicester City in front of their own fans. 5th place Chelsea failed to follow suit with a draw versus Brentford, which now means they still haven't won away from home this year. Thankfully for the Blues though, they keep hold of the 5th Champions League spot after 6th place Man City and their relegation candidate rivals put on a show that genuinely had the power to convince one to reject the sport and convert to golf. Meanwhile, in the shithole that impressively gives Alabama's version a run for its money, Emery Ball clears away the cloudy skies and misery, having all of a sudden found a spark late into the season. 2 early goals was enough for Aston Villa to triumph over 3rd place Forest and collect their 3rd straight win, something the Villains achieved for the first time since late September. On the other hand, Forest are luckily able to catch a break thanks to Brentford and Man United, as their cushion only shrinks to 4 now. After getting fans' hopes up with a 4-game win streak in February, 8th place Brighton is back to the same old shit again. After a loss to their rivals second half of the season FC, the Seagulls have now gone their last 3 games winless. Pretty interesting fact about Fulham, outside of their first game of the year, 2025 has not seen Charcuterie Board FC draw in a single game. And yes, that's how I meant to say it. But just wins and losses, and it was looking to be another L after league leaders Liverpool score early. However, Fulham quickly fire back with goals in the 23rd and 32nd minutes. 5 minutes later, Rodrigo Muniz produces a chef's kiss of a goal, which was then followed by an "oh good show" from the posh faithful. That emphatic victory at the Cottage though sees Fulham move up to 8th, 5 points from the Champions League now. Match day 32 and Forest make a big mistake in the back and concede to Everton in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. And that could play a huge part in the Champions League race, but for the time being they get lucky because Chelsea still can't beat a team that has lost to Southampton. So with the Blues vulnerable, now was the chance for Pep Guardiola's worst class to take over the 5th Champions League spot, but then they conceded 2 early goals versus Palace. However, City called upon the football gods once more to give them that clutch comeback magic, and 5 unanswered goals goals later, the citizens move up to that 5th Champions League spot. For their rivals, things were starting to look like the state of Old Trafford. For United, they had finally reached that age, but thankfully for them, Newcastle was there to spread them open for a prostate exam. With this win and Forest shock loss, Newcastle overtake into 3rd. 7th place Aston Villa now have 4 straight wins after a 3-0 win versus Southampton, where the goals came a little later than they wanted. Nonetheless, Villa continues to scrape and claw back into the Champions League fight and are now just a single point from 5th. 8th place Fulham may have defeated the league leaders, but they still can't get the upper hand against a bigger foe: consistency. Meanwhile, 9th place Brighton do what only Brighton can do and concede 2 goals versus a team who had failed to score a single goal in the last 8 games. And with those 2 teams losing, this opened the door for... Listen, I didn't mean to doubt you like this. Matchday 33, 7th place Aston Villa are pissed that they couldn't complete the comeback versus PSG in the Champions League. Their following opponents, Newcastle, had an active 5-game win streak, but Villa did not give a single shit about that. And from minute 1, they released their anger out on the Magpies and mauled them 4-1. Then a couple days later, 4th place Forest easily breaks down Tottenham's shambolic defense to win and overtake Newcastle for 3rd with a 3-point cushion. Holders of the extra spot, Man City, put together a less than convincing performance versus Everton, but nevertheless, 2 late goals sees them keep 5th for another weekend. Remember earlier in the season when Fulham pulled off that insane comeback versus Chelsea at Stamford Bridge? Well, Chelsea definitely did. After Fulham scored an early goal, the Blues pulled the ultimate Uno reverse, scoring the equalizer in the 83rd, and then the winner in the 3rd minute of stoppage time. That is also their first away win of the year. It's the middle of April, by the way. Nothing changed between 5th and 7th, but because of Newcastle's loss, 4th place's cushion is now just 2 points. Now, City played Villa about a day or so. Man City won. I wanted to include it in this video, but it kind of felt like a little bit of an odd cliffhanger because there was still like the rest of the weekend to play. So we're gonna save that for the next video when I talk about how the race ended. After 33 matches, here is technically the up-to-date table now. Nottingham Forest remain 3rd with a 3-point cushion, Newcastle are just a point behind them, and Man City are holding on to that extra Champions League spot for dear life, with Chelsea and Aston Villa sniffing them down just a point away. Now, as I mentioned, this video is specifically focused on the Champions League spots, but let's just have a little bit of fun and just see who would qualify for what if things stood now. We already have the Champions League spots: Liverpool, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Man City, and then to qualify for the Europa League, you have 6th place Chelsea. Aston Villa sits 7th, and they would qualify for the Conference League. So yeah, pretty simple stuff there. Not exactly. See, there's another Europa League spot that is reserved for the FA Cup winner. And right now we're into the semis, with the final 4 consisting of 3 Champions League contenders and Crystal Palace. If Palace or Villa win, they qualify for the Europa League. But if City or Forest, who are right now in Champions League spots, win, the Premier League now has an extra Europa League spot, and as opposed to Conference League, Villa would then be in the Europa League next season. And then we gotta remember that Newcastle won the EFL Cup this season, which births a team the Conference League. However, if things stand in the league table, Newcastle will qualify for the Champions League, so that Conference League spot is now transferred to the league as well. So now the Premier League has 2 Conference League spots for 8th place Bournemouth and 9th place Fulham. At least I think that's how it works. I think. I'm like 80% sure. But it gets even wilder if an English team wins a European competition this season. Arsenal are the last English team in the Champions League, but they're pretty secure in 2nd. Also, that's just not gonna happen, like, come on. But in the Europa League, you got 14th place Manchester United and 16th place Tottenham. And in the Conference League, you still got Chelsea. But this is already way too complicated as is, so I will just save this part for when we have to talk about the end of the season, when we don't have to talk about those what-ifs. Finally, we'll end with some notable matches that I would probably recommend watching because I would say these are the best to watch out of the rest of the season. Matchday 36 has current Champions League spot holders Newcastle hosting Chelsea, who are currently out looking in. Newcastle are hosting this at home though, so this could go one of 2 ways. Newcastle absolutely maul Chelsea, considering how bad Chelsea's away record has been this entire year. Or maybe we'll see a different Chelsea, considering they just won their first away game like a week ago. Lastly, another one that involves Chelsea, you have them going up against Forest away. So I'm sorry, Chelsea fans. But this is the last match day. Chelsea have shown vulnerability away from home. However, Nottingham Forest isn't exactly that immortal themselves. So we got 5 more matches for everyone besides Man City and Villa, who just played each other. Again, we'll cover that in the next video because everyone else plays their 34th game this weekend. Odds can say whatever the hell they want. I don't really care. because I still feel like there's going to be some insanity that awaits us for these next few weeks. There's going to be tons of drama, emotion, big Premier League pops whenever a goal is scored is probably going to be even louder with every week that passes. So yeah, I would recommend watching this finale. But who do you guys think will qualify for the Champions League? Let me know. If I had to make my personal predictions, I will go... I'm sorry, Forrest. I don't know why. I feel like there's a collapse that's going to happen. I'm going to go Newcastle, Man City, and Aston Villa. But of course, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, Luke RBB, Aresan, Brazilian Fury, Jeremiah Wusu Ajimang, Django, Anazir Makalankam, Alex Rod, Slider Kit, Taco Gofan, Dentro Gacha, Saint Terran, Sylvia Citrus, Rashford Enthusiast, Cheesebait, Winder Gel, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portugeiser, Polo Protos, Von Fan, Lucian Von Kreuz, Guzegers Peshakivics, A Ghostly Owl, Coney Wolves, Leakstab, Mud Tanai, Sketchy Card, Apollo, Congo Jazz 1, German Sayu 7th, Thrilling ADT 13, Los Milos, Le James Braun, Vacinho, Jamie Vardy's 10th Red Bull, Nightwalker, Napside, Money Cash Hose, Quantavious Pork, Lilia Lover, Stewed Monk, Kev C, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Krebs, Mohammed Al Tanib, Nish, Patrick Barley, Rashford God 5, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member on the channel, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow me on Twitch. I have been actually streaming a decent bit, and of course Arsenal PSG will be happening next week, so I will be doing a watch-along stream for that, so definitely check out the Twitch. I am actually streaming, this is no joke. But until then, I'll see you guys.